So Infinite Jest is as close to a mind melt as it gets. And this is part of a 6-week series in which I discuss the best of the best, and this is one of my 6 favorite novels of all time. So what will be answered in this video? So what is Infinite Jest about in a nutshell? What makes it into a memorable read? And why isn't there anything else that really comes close to all this? Now, full disclosure, the first time I read Infinite Jest, my expectations were all wrong. I expected a book that was like easy to read, something to lay back with, something to read to relax the mind, to read before sleeping. And if this is your expectation, this is not the right expectation for Infinite Jest, because this book is hard work, but you will get stuff out of it as well. Now, full disclaimer as well, I'm not gonna spoil anything of the story. I'm just gonna summarize some general points, but they will definitely not take away from the experience of reading Infinite Jest for yourself. Now, Infinite Jest in a nutshell. So this is about a hyper-talented kid trying to keep it together while going through a tennis academy against the backdrop of the opioid epidemic. And the story took place in the 80s, and that kind of has that feel to it as well, but it's really intense. Now, Infinite Jest, it reads like a linear story, but it's not one with an arc that is resolved at the end. Infinite Jest is more of a stream of consciousness, which makes it into a work of literature. And this is the first very interesting point of this book. Now, and the second part of this statement is really the key, because drug use and overuse, that is really something that can either make an experience much nicer or it can make an experience much worse. And our understanding of a drug is like, you know, the typical stuff, like the hardcore stuff, let's put it like that. But a drug can also be like something that you consume every day and that you would not literally identify as a drug right away. So for example, it can be certain ingredients in certain foods that have a drug-like effect. And it can also be other things that you consume regularly and that really have an impact on your emotional well-being. So that's why the word drug in this context, yes, the story, it's literally about you know, the hardcore drugs and the epidemic of the 80s, but to really experience and really appreciate the impact and width of this work much more is to really pull it open and to use like a wider definition of a drug. Now, it's extremely intense. Like I can only read a couple of pages at a time of this work. So sometimes I'm thinking like, well, I would like to spend a day reading Infinite Jest. In my world, that means like I'm gonna spend an hour on this. And after an hour, I have had such an intense experience. That's all I can do in a day. And this just needs to be your experience going in. Like you shouldn't expect a book that you can spend like a full day with or a full weekend with, but an hour at a time, because it really is extremely intense. Now, and also I want to call the nostalgia weird, because it hooks into a sort of nostalgia that's unlike other types of nostalgias. And the nostalgia that I'm getting at here, it's like of a hyper-talented kid. And well, I'm just a regular guy. I was not a hyper-talented kid by any means. So that's what I mean with the weird sort of nostalgia. Like it's so stretched out, so far out from what it was actually like back in the days. But it's also what makes a story work and what really makes it stand out and what really pulls you into a different sort of world. So it's this intensity plus a weird nostalgia what makes this into a powerhouse. And the hard read, in its own weird way, it's like a cherry on top. Now, And also what really stands out in this work here is that it's very distinct. There isn't really anything quite like it. And also ultimately this story, it doesn't have a resolution. It's like a fragment of time, but there's no arc, there's no beginning and end really to speak of. There's no hero journey, there's none of that stuff, but there is a large stream of consciousness. Now, and it's exactly that combination of real life, intensity, weirdness plus non-resolution, and the hardness of the whole experience that makes this into a mind melt. It really is that intense, and I haven't experienced that with any other work of fiction. So how should you set the stage before reading? And I already mentioned it a couple of times. This is not relaxation, but this is deep immersion. So if you're looking for something to fall asleep to, this is not it. This is the opposite. This requires your full attention, but if you spend an hour at a time on this, I can guarantee you, you will get something out of it. Now, back to the actual subject of exploring Jelmer's world, because on this channel I document the journey towards creating success online in an awesome way. So that's what I'm going to get back into right now. So looking back to last week, last week was the second time that I did a live stream on my main channel, which is Jelmer Builds Things, and boy, can I tell you, this was really exciting, because the first time it was just me talking to the camera. There was no one watching and there was no interaction. But this time around I did have a small audience, and it's really interesting, and it's also really almost addictive to see that on the phone, because when you're streaming, like you hold the phone like this, and in the top of the screen you can see like the number of people that are watching, and also you can like see comments come in real time, and I used it like a little bit to get a discussion going, and it was really interesting. It went nowhere, of course, because it was my first, and I wasn't really that experienced yet, and I wasn't really that much prepared for it as well, because it was like, well, let's just go with the flow. But usually that's like not the best preparation for things. But this time around, this week, I will do things differently. Now, and of course, we need some stats. So JBT, 118, Prim's game, 20, and Exploring Jelmer's World, 5. And you know, these numbers, they crawl up really slow, and that is expected. I'm prepared for it taking like about 3 to 5 years before I get this whole thing off the ground. But it's also a double feeling, because it literally hooks into the next part, and that is what was on my mind. On my mind was this statement, like, should I only do the things that get me immediate results, or should I cast a wide net and aim for the long run? And this is one of those things, like in the back of my mind, I know right away, like what the answer is, but still I'm looking for some sort of confirmation, if that makes sense. So back in February of this year, I literally went back into my writing stuff. I had put it aside for a couple of years, and I just had an itch. Like between the summer of last year and February, I had just been spending all my time and energy on Jelmer Builds Things, and it was getting too much of the same thing. So I wanted some variation, and I thought, like, man, I need to cast a wider net. And now last week was exactly the opposite experience, because I'm in the dip, I'm in the lonely chapter, I'm in the place where I don't have a lot of traction yet. So I just need to push through, and all things that I looked at, it points in that direction, that I just need to push through to make it happen. And so that was on my mind last week, and obviously I'll just continue on this course, because I need to give things the proper amount of time as well, to see if it will work out, if there is going to be a slight success, while also it needs to be a bit calculated. So like 80% of my time goes to Jelmer Builds Things, because I think that is like the biggest chance at really becoming something. And I spent about 20% of my time on this channel and on the Prims Game channel. Partly as well because I want to get better at these sorts of videos, like the talking head videos, to make that somewhat more engaging. But also, I think this is more raw. Like with other videos, like you can lean a lot on editing and stuff, but to keep a conversation, because I see this as a conversation, to keep a conversation going for a longer time, it's hard to fake. It needs to be somewhat real, and if it is not real, you know, you will just feel it, and it will just go nowhere. So, long story short, yes, I should cast a wide net and just continue on this course. Now, my resolution for next week, like I always do, like I try to do things 1% better. You know, 1% is like a really small increment, but over the long run, it's gonna make the difference. And also, I'm gonna figure out some sort of ritual and some unique elements to make the live stream of Jelmer Builds Things more interesting. I'm already looking forward to it, and I like the fact that there's like a week in between, because that creates some mystery around it. Like if it did like a daily thing, it would be like, yeah, well, it's every day, but this is like once a week, and people really need to clock in at that specific time to really experience it. And I find it interesting, I find it exciting, and there is really something to it there. So if you're interested, go check it out. It's 11 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time on Thursdays. Now, and that ties into the question that I want to ask you. So all that I do, it's a statement against mediocrity, because I deeply believe that if you go against mediocrity, that's the only way to create an exceptional life. So that's the question of this week. How did you go against mediocrity? So drop it in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me, especially because you know, I'm just starting out. I don't have many subscribers yet, so thank you so much for that. And if you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, give it a like, and that will tell the algorithm that you know, more people should watch this, and this is the good stuff. And maybe there's someone who needs this in their life and they do not know it themselves yet, and by subscribing and liking, you're gonna tell the algorithm like, hey, this might also be something for that other person. Alright, that's it. That's the video.